Type 2 diabetes, or Purnahara as it is called in Ayurveda, is a silent epidemic or a silent pandemic, I would say, which we are not aware of, or it doesn't impact our lives the way COVID-19 impacted our lives. So the priority which we give it is not as much as it deserves. So if you have to categorize clinically in two very broad categories, I can say that there are patients who lose weight and who become very fragile after developing type 2 diabetes, and then you have this category in which there are not much symptoms, but their blood sugars are high and their weight or their body mass index, as we call it, is on the higher side. In both these categories, the kind of management which is required is very different. For example, if you make a person who has already lost a lot of weight and has become very weak, or the debility is very high, or they are always tired because of their blood sugar, if you make them exercise a lot and have a calorie restricted diet and apply the same rules of diet as to what are applied for people who are obese and diabetic, then it can worsen their symptoms and worsen their condition. So we cannot generalize rules of dietetics in diabetes. In fact, most of the people who experience poor sugar control is because of generalization and one size fits all approach which is taken towards diet, especially in diseases like diabetes. Each person has a different body. We are not made like cars in which all our engine models are the same and the capacity of oil or fuel is the same. We are all uniquely different, and that's why understanding our body type and then kind of customizing or understanding and having an awareness of what suits us is very important, and more so ever in people who are diabetic. Today we are going to talk about a very important category of food, which is fats. Fats invokes an emotion even within me, because that's how our minds are conditioned right from the time we are small, right, that fats are all bad. But fats are very important part of nutrition, especially in people who are diabetic. As I said before, based on how you were diagnosed with diabetes or what impact diabetes has had on your body, do remember that this advice too cannot be generalized. But we are going to go over as to how to choose cooking oils and fats in your diet for having a better sugar control. The number one choice of oil for cooking for people with diabetes is coconut. So we often have a question asked by people, how do I choose coconut oil? You have so many varieties on the market now. You have copra coconut oil and you have virgin coconut oil. How do I choose? If you are going to choose coconut oil for its nutrition, or especially for diabetes, you should always go for virgin coconut oil. Virgin coconut oil is made from fresh coconut copra. So when the coconut is utilized for making oil, the fresh coconut pulp is what is used. It's dried and then oil is extracted at a very low temperature, that is virgin coconut oil. And then you have the cold pressed. If it is cold pressed, the effects are even better. Coconut oil by nature is very anti-inflammatory in nature, and anti-inflammatory effects are something which we look for when we are trying to reduce blood sugar levels, or when we are trying to improve our insulin sensitivity. That is, our body's response to insulin has to be increased in order for us to have better sugar control. So coconut is one of the major oils, cooking oils, which helps us achieve that. Because of its anti-inflammatory properties, it is also good for reducing damage which can happen because of prolonged high blood sugar levels that happens to different organs in our body, like kidney and retina and our heart and our nerves. So anti-inflammatory properties of coconut oil help to reduce that as well, and research studies do show that having coconut oil helps us have a better sugar control. In fact, the incidence of metabolic disorders in general, whether it is cardiovascular disorders or it is diabetes, is lower in people who use coconut oil traditionally in their cuisine. For example, in Indian subcontinent and many of the Asian countries, they use coconut oil in their cuisine, and research studies show that the incidence of diabetes in such countries is much lower. After coconut oil, the next cooking fat is ghee. In another episode, I have spoken about the various benefits of ghee, and that ghee is not actually a food ingredient. It's like having a personality in your kitchen. And if you're diabetic, having ghee is extremely essential in your diet. Now both coconut oil and ghee, if you have noticed, solidify at room temperature because of their high saturated fat content. And that fat content is extremely essential in diabetes because every time you mix a fat with a carbohydrate, that helps to lower the speed or the rate at which it releases sugar in our body. It makes its digestion very sustained and slow, and it helps to maintain very stable blood sugar levels over a long period of time. Many times I explain patients, it is not the spike in blood sugar which harms you. It is the constant fluctuation in your blood sugar level which impacts your health as a whole. So when you eat, your blood sugar levels tend to peak. And when you don't eat for a very long time, if you eat, give a long gap between two meals, or if your food has many polished grains and refined foods, or if you are not taking unpolished grains. For example, we have the red rajmudi rice here, which is an unpolished variety of rice. Many people are addicted to white rice, which is not good for diabetes. So if you are having simple carbohydrates and polished grains, it will make your blood sugar levels crash. And that crash and again the spike which comes after eating food is what is more dangerous to the body than the blood sugar levels themselves. So maintaining blood sugar levels is most important, and oils and fat like ghee and coconut oil help us to achieve it. In fact, suppose somebody really feels like having white rice or any polished grain for that matter, adding a little bit of ghee or coconut oil to it can reduce its glycemic index. So glycemic index is an index which we use to see how much sugar is released in the blood when we eat a food. So unpolished grains, we have unpolished tur dal here, we have red rice here. So they help to kind of stabilize the blood sugar level, and the higher fiber content in both of these doesn't allow them to release sugar too quickly in the blood. So they have a higher or a medium glycemic index. Whereas polished rice or maida, refined wheat flour, release blood sugar too quickly in the blood, and hence we call them high glycemic index. For example, even fruits like watermelon and mango and sapota have very high glycemic index, sugarcane juice, etc. So such foods should be had in strict moderation. They are not bad for people with diabetes. It just means that you need to have them with moderation, and same applies to coconut oil and ghee as well. So adding coconut oil and ghee helps to reduce the glycemic index of the food, thereby making it at least slightly acceptable in a diabetic diet. After this, the next oil is groundnut oil. So groundnut oil, I think we have it here. Groundnut oil is another oil which is extremely good for blood sugar controls. In fact, substituting groundnut oil in diet showed that, in experimental studies showed that it helped to reduce HbA1c, the glycosylated hemoglobin index, what we see to assess blood sugar control in type 2 diabetes. So it was found that people in experiments where groundnut oil was used, the HbA1c levels were much better, which comes as a percentage. So basically it is your 3-month average blood sugar control. HbA1c is your 3-month average blood sugar control, and it is a much more reliable test as compared to your today's fasting or postprandial blood sugar levels, because it shows even if once your blood sugar levels had peaked during the last 3 months period, then it leaves a permanent impression on your hemoglobin, and that is what HbA1c test catches, and it expresses that as a percentage. The higher the percentage, for example, the acceptable higher limit of HbA1c is 5.6%. So if it is higher than that, what it means is that either you are in a pre-diabetic level or your blood sugar control is very poor if it is very high. So we do get patients with 13 and 14% of HbA1c, which shows that their blood sugar control is very poor. So using groundnut oil in cooking does help to stabilize HbA1c and blood sugar levels. Now we are following a hierarchy here to show which is the best and proceeding thereby. Of course, each food oil suits people differently. So we cannot generalize, but still in this order, it's a good reference point to choose cooking oil. Next, we have sesame seed oil or gingerly oil, it's called in certain areas like Tamil Nadu. It is regularly used for cooking. Cold pressed gingerly oil is again another oil which is very revered in Ayurveda and is considered one of the best oils in the whole oil category, and it is readily used in many of Ayurveda preparations. And just as I had mentioned in a few episodes ago, that without sesame seeds, many of Ayurveda preparations will be non-existent, because it has been used so extensively in Ayurvedic medicines. And similarly, sesame seed oil, toasted sesame seed oil, is extremely good for blood sugar control as well. Many people complain that the cold pressed sesame seed oil, which is made with black sesame seeds, is a little bitter to taste, and hence the palatability is not really great, is what some people complain about sesame seed oil. That's because heating these oils at very high temperature sometimes can burn the oil and turn them bitter in taste. So if you are using cold pressed sesame seed oil, especially in cooking, make sure that it's not heated too much when you are using it for cooking, otherwise it will turn bitter. So this is also extremely good, not just for internal usage, I would say, in diabetes, even for external use. Massaging your body every day can also help to boost your metabolism and help you stay healthier and improve your quality of life as a person who has diabetes. So next oil for diabetes care is sunflower oil. So sunflower oil is a very neutral oil. In fact, if you have to understand it, you can call it like that harmless neighbor who's always pleasant, doesn't bother you, but is always helpful. So sunflower oil, unlike other oils, for example, coconut oil cannot be tolerated by people who have kapha prakriti, or say groundnut oil cannot be tolerated by people with pitta prakriti. In fact, people with diabetes, if they have associated thyroid issues, they said they should in fact avoid groundnut oil. But in these regards, sunflower oil is a very safe choice of oil for regular cooking with for blood sugar control, because it helps all the three doshas to stay in balance. It is lubricating enough for Vata body type, which is a little dry body type, and they have a tendency to have a lot of roughness in their body as a whole. It is warm enough to calm down kapha, which can increase if the oil is too cold in nature, for example coconut oil. And it is cool enough for calming down pitta, which can increase if the oil is too heating in nature, for example groundnut oil. So sunflower oil is extremely good, and it helps blood sugar control better, and it also helps in improving your insulin resistance and improves your insulin sensitivity, and should be used in the food. If you want like a safe choice of oil, you don't want to go either side, or if you are doing a cooking which requires more oil when you're cooking for a diabetic person, sunflower oil is a very good choice. Next, we have safflower oil, which is called kusube enne or kusumba taila in Ayurveda. So kusumba taila, the reason for keeping it last is because Ayurveda texts very strongly mention that it is a ahitakara taila. That doesn't mean that it is bad in total. In fact, there are uses to safflower oil which are very peculiar to it. For example, I mentioned women with polycystic ovarian syndrome, that they too have a tendency to develop type 2 diabetes, and it is a real risk for them because they have insulin resistance as a very intrinsic imbalance which leads to PCOS for them. So applying safflower oil externally helps to, it's said that it helps to reduce hirsutism, which is excessive growth of coarse hair over chin, upper lip, or on the cheeks, or all over the body for that matter. So it does help and can be tried as a very inexpensive remedy for it. But because it is ahitakara oil, it shouldn't be used in too much quantity for people with diabetes, and should be avoided by people if you have any complications with diabetes, then this is not an oil for you. However, if you are having, if a person has very good body strength, has good digestion, then they can very well use safflower oil in their cooking. Probably not every day, but you can use safflower oil in cooking. The concept of ahitakara foods in Ayurveda is that eating them once will not harm you, but if you are using them excessively day after day in too much quantity, that is when something starts to bother you. Based on your body types, these are the oils. We mentioned coconut oil, ghee, then we have the groundnut oil, sesame seed oil, sunflower oil, and safflower oil for using in cooking or using in your diet for people with diabetes. Again, I would say that do remember that moderation is the key. Too much of even a good thing is not good for you. So just because something is good, it doesn't mean that overeating oils and fats in diabetes will help you maintain a good blood sugar control. So moderation of cooking oils and fats is a must, but this is a whole array from which you can choose. Another point is the choice of cooking oil also depends on which region of India you belong to. Because our cuisine and culture is so diverse, typically we tend to choose oils which are local to our region. For example, in coastal Karnataka, coastal Kerala, some parts of coastal Maharashtra, coconut oil is a staple. Okay. In fact, we have a joke in our house, that if allowed, I am from Goa, so if allowed, we can put coconut even in rice and eat. That is, we can eat coconut 24/7 because it is native to our land and we have a natural affinity towards it. But if you ask people from Gujarat to have coconut, they might feel pukish at the smell of coconut oil. So choice of oil in India is very regional. So when you are choosing oil, you have to, which oil to use in more amount in your cooking can depend on which area of or which region of India you belong to. For example, people towards Tamil Nadu tend to use more of gingerly oil or sesame seed oil. People on the Deccan Plateau tend to use more of groundnut oil in their cooking, and sunflower oil too, and probably even safflower oil. Whereas as I said, in coastal regions, that is the west coast, people use more of coconut oil. Depending on your cultural heritage, you can also have you can also decide which oil should get more preference in your cooking, and there is a high chance, and it is like that depending on your genetic lineage, your body will accept certain oils better as compared to certain other oils. For example, the whole advent of olive oil culture in Indian cuisine, it's something which always baffles me. In fact, I would say I'm still confused about it. Because whatever doesn't grow regionally in any region, there's a very less chance that the benefits that they tout, you will ever achieve them. Because your body simply will not be able to recognize or be able to understand what to do with it. So rather than choosing an oil which is also very expensive on your pocket and which is not regional to our country, you can go for local and regional fats which are equally beneficial for your blood sugar control and for your overall quality of life as a diabetic person. Apart from the cooking oils, there is a special mention that I want to do here of castor oil. Many people also, there are many jokes about castor oil wherein we call people who look very unhappy as if, we ask them, did you have castor oil? Why have you made such a face, So castor oil, there are many jokes also about it. But this humble oil, although it's not a cooking oil and it doesn't feature in your diet, is extremely medicinal in nature. Many people use castor oil to put on their feet. If you have burning sensation in feet, especially people with diabetic neuropathy can be benefited by applying it on their feet. Some people use it even for head massage to help them sleep better and to reduce body heat. But another very good usage of castor oil is for constipation, which is associated with diabetes. So having a few teaspoons of, depending on your body type, of course, you can take a doctor's opinion as to see and decide how much castor oil is safe enough for you, because it's a very strong purgative. So based on your body type and based on your intestines or intestinal capacity or intestinal behavior, which we call koshtha in Ayurveda, you can decide what is a safe amount of castor oil to use for you. So castor oil is excellent for relieving constipation, and it is also a very good detoxifying agent. Also, if you are a person who suffers from rheumatoid arthritis along with diabetes, or if you have joint pains, that is your regular osteoarthritis, then using castor oil in your routine as a detoxifying agent can really help to bring down that pain by balancing vata in your body. In fact, there is a shloka which goes in Ayurveda that for ama, which is a kind of toxin, very toxic substance which is formed when our food is not digested properly, there is nothing like castor oil to bring it under control, especially in rheumatoid arthritis. So they have said that, just like how a lion can overpower a huge elephant, similar way, very humble castor oil can tame down a massive disorder like ama.